The roles were getting heavier lately, not just physically but emotionally. Maybe it was age, or maybe it was just perspective, but these days, Keanu found himself thinking less about scripts and more about people. And that's when he heard it. A sharp cry. A stifled gasp. The kind of sound that stops your heart for a second before instinct takes over. Keanu turned sharply toward a narrow alley just off Main and 5th. The lights barely reached the walls there. Shadows danced like they had something to hide. Then he saw them. A girl, no older than 15, backed against a graffiti-tagged brick wall. Her hands trembled at her sides, eyes wide. In front of her, a man twice her size, face partially obscured by a beanie in the angle of the alley light, stood threateningly close. He was shouting something about her phone, her bag, her being in the wrong place. "Hey," Keanu called out without hesitation, stepping forward. The thug turned slowly, sizing up the voice. Keanu stepped into the dim glow, and for the first time, the man's eyes flickered, not in fear, but in challenge. "Walk away," the man growled. "This ain't your problem." Keanu took another step. "It is now." Behind the thug, the girl's eyes filled with something else now, hope. She whispered something. Keanu caught the word mom. Then he saw her at the end of the alley. The girl's mother, maybe mid-40s, limping as she tried to get to her daughter, clutching her side, already bruised. Keanu's breath caught. The thug had hurt her. And now? The man lunged like a bull, fast and reckless, his fist cocked back. Keanu didn't flinch. His body moved with the instinct of a stuntman, but the calm of a monk. He sidestepped, grabbed the thug's arm mid-swing, and twisted it with controlled force. The guy yelped, more surprised than hurt, and stumbled into the side of a dumpster with a loud clang. The sound echoed through the alley, startling pigeons from a rooftop. The girl gasped and ran to her mother, who was struggling to stay upright, one hand gripping a bleeding gash on her hip. Keanu turned, his eyes locked on the thug now regaining his footing. "You're done," Keanu said, voice low and steady. But the man wasn't. He pulled a switchblade. Keanu's jaw tightened. "You really don't want to do that." The thug lunged again, this time slashing. Keanu stepped back once, twice, the blade missing by inches. Then, in one swift motion, Keanu ducked low and swept the man's legs out from under him. The thug hit the pavement hard, groaning. The knife clattered away. Before Keanu could breathe, the mother cried out she was going down. He rushed over, catching her before she collapsed. Blood was seeping faster now. "We need to get you help," he said, gently lowering her to the ground. "I tried to stop him," she said between shaky breaths. "He grabbed my daughter. I tried." Keanu took off his overshirt and pressed it against her wound. "You did enough," he said softly. "You're safe now. Both of you." From behind, the thug groaned again. Keanu looked over his shoulder just in time to see the man pushing himself up, reaching for the knife. Keanu stepped away from the injured mother, his eyes locked on the thug now crawling toward the knife like a wounded animal desperate for control. A part of him, the part that knew pain, who had lived through loss, felt pity. But not now. Not with lives at stake. "Stay down," Keanu warned, voice firm like stone. But the thug didn't listen. He grabbed the knife with a growl, pushed to his feet, and charged, not with technique, but with rage. Keanu waited. Just as the blade came forward, Keanu sidestepped, grabbed the man's wrist, and slammed it against the wall. The knife dropped again. A swift elbow to the jaw followed. Then a knee to the gut. The man crumpled. Keanu didn't gloat. He didn't yell. He just stood over him and said one word. "Enough." By now, someone had heard the commotion. A door to the side of the alley opened. A cook from the diner, eyes wide, stepped out and saw the scene, the girl hugging her mom, Keanu standing over the fallen man, the knife glinting on the concrete. "I'm calling 911, the cook shouted, running back inside. Keanu crouched back down beside the mother. "Help is on the way." She nodded weakly, tears streaking her dirt-smeared face. Her daughter clung to her tightly. Then the girl looked up at Keanu. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Keanu gave her a small, reassuring smile. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." But even as he said it, his eyes drifted back to the thug, now barely conscious, muttering something incoherent. There was something in his voice, a name maybe, or a warning. Keanu's instincts buzzed again. This wasn't random. The thug lay sprawled on the wet pavement, blood from his lip mixing with the rainwater around him. His eyelids fluttered, consciousness fading. But then, just before he slipped under completely, he mumbled something. Keanu leaned closer. "What did you say?" The man's lips barely moved. A raspy breath. "Victor," Sent me. Keanu froze. That name, Victor. It clawed at something buried in his memory. Not from Hollywood. Not from the red carpet. But from years ago, a quiet warning whispered on a film set during a shoot overseas. A man he'd helped put away, indirectly, by testifying in a case he had no intention of getting involved in. But he did it anyway, for a young crew member who'd been threatened. The man's name was Victor Denev, a trafficker, a monster, and a man who'd vowed revenge. Keanu's jaw clenched. This wasn't a mugging. It wasn't random. This was personal. Sirens wailed in the distance now, flashing red and blue growing brighter at the alley's end. The cook from the diner re-emerged, waving the first responders over. The mother, still weak but conscious, reached out and gently squeezed Keanu's arm. He said he wanted to take her. Said someone paid him. Keanu nodded grimly. I think I know who. Paramedics took over, lifting the mother onto a stretcher while another officer helped the girl into a blanket, guiding her to safety. Keanu stayed where he was for a beat longer, staring down at the unconscious thug. A chill ran through him, not from the wind, but from the realization that Victor wasn't done. This was only the beginning, and the people he cared about were no longer safe. As the ambulance pulled away, Keanu stood under the dim alley light, rain softening into mist. The girl had waved to him from the back seat, her small face pale but safe. For now. But Keanu's mind was spinning. Victor, he's back. Back then, Victor Denev had operated in silence. Human trafficking, threats, bribes. Untouchable until a frightened young camera assistant confided in Keanu on a remote shoot in Eastern Europe. The guy had seen too much, and Victor wanted him quiet. When no one else stepped forward, Keanu did. He never told anyone about the threats that followed. Anonymous letters. Phone calls with no voice on the line. Shadows that lingered a little too long. It had stopped eventually. Or so he thought. Now it was clear it hadn't stopped. It had just waited. Keanu pulled out his phone. Not the one his assistant or studio used. This one was older, secure, only known by a few people. He scrolled through the contacts until he found the name, Rami. An ex-private investigator, Rami had worked security for some of the most high-profile people in the world. He also owed Keanu a favor. Yeah. Rami answered instantly. Rami, I need everything you can dig up on a man named Victor Denev. I think he's making moves again. Tonight wasn't random. A pause. Then Rami's voice dropped an octave. You sure? I'm looking at a girl who almost got taken. Her mother's in surgery. And the guy who attacked them said Victor sent him. Say no more. I'll call you back in 20. Keanu hung up and turned toward the alley's end. Flashing lights were fading. But something gnawed at him. Something deeper. If Victor had come this far to hurt a stranger, what would stop him from targeting people Keanu actually knew? His sister, his crew, his friends. He pulled his hood back up and walked into the night. Not a movie star now. Just a man with a mission. Because Keanu Reeves had saved a girl tonight. The Uber ride back to Keanu's place was silent. Not because he didn't have anything to say, but because everything inside him was screaming. He stared out the window, watching raindrops race across the glass like nervous thoughts. He had seen darkness before. On screen, in stories, in broken people. But Victor wasn't a script. He was real. And tonight proved he hadn't forgotten Keanu's face, or his choice to speak up. The car stopped in front of Keanu's modest home tucked into the Los Angeles hills. Not the fortress most celebrities lived in. No gate. Just stone and wood and glass. Honest. Vulnerable. Just like him. He stepped inside and poured a glass of water, trying to slow the buzz of adrenaline. That's when the second call came. Keanu. It was Rami. You're not going to like this. Tell me anyway. Victor Denev never left the game. He's deeper in now, hidden behind shell companies, uses proxies, fronts like a crypto trader, but still moves people like inventory. Worse, he's here. LA. Keanu closed his eyes. He's targeting me. Isn't he? There was a pause. That girl tonight. Her mother was an immigration paralegal. 3 years ago, she helped get testimony against one of Victor's guys, landed him in prison. You showing up in that alley? He didn't expect that. But this was planned. Keanu's grip on the phone tightened. And the girl? She wasn't the only target. I cross-referenced recent sightings, shady movements. And Keanu, your sister's address just popped on a flagged network. Silence. Then Keanu spoke, low and steady. I'm going there now. Keanu, wait. You need backup. I'll be careful, But I'm not waiting. He hung up, grabbed his motorcycle keys and a small case from the top shelf of his closet, the one he hadn't opened in years. Inside it was a simple, solid flashlight and a Glock 19. He didn't want to use it, but he wouldn't hesitate. Not tonight. Not when family might be in danger. As the engine roared to life and his bike peeled out into the stormy LA night, Keanu whispered to himself, "You came after the wrong people, Victor." Keanu's motorcycle cut through the rain like a whisper, the streets of Los Angeles now slick rivers reflecting red taillights and lightning-streaked skies. Every second felt like a countdown. He couldn't stop. The ride to his sister Kim's home felt longer than it should have. Too long. When he finally rounded the last corner, his stomach dropped. Her porch light was off. That light was never off. Keanu killed the engine and approached quietly, his boots soaking in puddles. No sounds. No music. No sign of movement. But the door wasn't fully closed. It was cracked, just slightly, but enough to send chills down his spine. He reached behind his back and pulled the Glock free, holding it low. Then he stepped inside. "Kim," he called softly. No answer. The house was dark, except for the soft glow of a phone screen on the kitchen counter. A vase had fallen. A chair was tipped over. Not chaos, but not normal. Then, a voice. Faint. Muffled. Behind the hallway door. Keanu moved silently, pressing his back to the wall as he reached for the handle. One breath. Two. He pushed the door open. And there she was, Kim. On the floor, bound at the wrists, tape over her mouth, her eyes wide but alive. Keanu rushed forward, kneeling beside her, pulling the tape away. "Keanu, he's still here," she gasped. Before Keanu could respond, he heard it, a slow creak behind him. He turned. A man stood in the hallway. Tall, masked, armed with a crowbar, and surprised to see him. They stared at each other for a second. Recognition flickered. "You," the man muttered. "You picked the wrong house," Keanu replied. Then the man swung. Keanu ducked and drove his shoulder forward, slamming the guy into the wall. The crowbar clanged to the floor. They struggled in the dark, fists, knees, elbows. The man was strong, but Keanu was fighting for blood. And then, one solid hit to the jaw sent the intruder crashing into the bookshelf. Out cold. Keanu breathed hard, standing over the guy, gun still tight in his grip. Kim pulled herself to her feet. Shaking, but okay. "You saved me," she said. Keanu nodded, but his voice was cold now. I think he was just the warning shot. And suddenly it all made sense. The alley wasn't a failed grab. Police arrived 10 minutes later, sirens breaking through the storm like war drums. The masked intruder, now zip-tied and groggy, was handed over without a fight. Kim sat wrapped in a blanket, her eyes locked on her brother, refusing to let go of his hand. "You knew something like this might happen," she whispered. "I hoped it wouldn't," Keanu replied, voice tight. "But I couldn't risk it." A detective pulled him aside. "Guy won't talk. No ID. Fake prints. Pro job." "Victor Denev," Keanu said. The detective blinked. "The trafficker? Thought he disappeared." Keanu shook his head. "He's still moving pieces. Quiet. Controlled. And now? He's making it personal." The officer looked unconvinced. Keanu didn't argue. There wasn't time for red tape. As the cruiser pulled away with the attacker inside, Kim looked up at Keanu again. "What happens now?" "I stopped this," he said simply. "For good." He made one call to Rami. "You were right," Keanu told him. "It's war now. I figured as much. Listen, I did some digging. There's a warehouse in Echo Park. Off the books. Empty on paper, but there's movement. Cameras, heat signatures, encrypted signals. You want to bet that's where they're running operations?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Text me the location." Rami hesitated. "You sure you want to go in alone?" "I'm not going in blind," Keanu replied. "I'm going in angry." That night, in the quiet of his own garage, Keanu opened another locked case. Not weapons, but gear. Gloves. Tactical boots. A flash drive with everything he'd ever collected on Victor: photos, locations, aliases. He hadn't opened it in years, but now it pulsed like a beacon. He suited up. Dark clothes. Silent tread. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, same eyes, same scars. But tonight, he wasn't just Keanu. He was the reckoning Victor never saw coming. The warehouse loomed like a forgotten beast, tucked beneath the skeleton of an overpass in Echo Park. To the world, it was condemned. Faded "No trespassing" signs lined the rusted gate. But Keanu saw through it. He always had. He parked a block away, moving through the shadows like water. No film crew. No stunt doubles. Just him and the rage carried in his chest like a second heartbeat. Inside the warehouse, faint light flickered from a window high above. He counted 3 exterior cameras, 2 guards at the entrance, bored, distracted. Rookie mistake. Keanu slipped behind them. 1 quick move, 2 pressure points, a twist, a chokehold. They were down without a sound. Then he was in. The inside was worse than he imagined. Cages, crates, documents, surveillance monitors. It wasn't just Victor's base, it was his entire operation. A web of faces, transactions, transport routes. This wasn't about him. It was bigger. But Keanu's focus narrowed when he saw a familiar photo pinned on the wall. The girl from the alley. Her name was written beneath it, Jasmine Marquez. Next to it, another photo, her mother. And under both, a red X. Keanu's fist clenched. Then footsteps. He ducked behind a column as 2 men walked through, laughing. One had a thick accent. Russian. Keanu recognized it. Victor's coming tonight, one of them said. Wants to see the mess himself. Says the actor is poking too hard. Keanu's eyes narrowed. Good, he thought. Let him come. Keanu moved fast now, downloading every file from the central computer onto his drive, snapping photos, texting coordinates to Rami with 2 words. Call Interpol. Then he planted the final surprise, small black blocks tucked under desks and pillars.